than whatever you just did.
Hello, we're here with the wonderful Larry Szeliga, who is a seasoned expert in organizational development, focusing on workplace culture, transformation, and career advancement strategies. With a master's degree in organizational development from American University in Washington, D.C., Larry has dedicated his career to helping organizations unleash the untapped potential of their people. Larry's extensive experience includes 10 years at General Motors. Then he ventured out independently and established his consulting company. As a trusted consultant, he worked with renowned clients such as General Motors, Saturn, Ford, Chrysler, GE Medical, and Colgate-Palmolive, guiding them in their pursuit of excellence. In 1990, Larry re-entered the corporate world and became Chief Operations Officer for OTR Wheel Engineering, Inc. Larry also embarked on a new career chapter when he launched MYOB Publications, LLC, with the motto, "Mind your own business," and a tagline of "Your life is your business and you are the boss." Through this venture, he empowers individuals to take control of their lives and become the architects of their success, emphasizing the belief that everyone possesses tremendous potential waiting to be unleashed. I totally agree with you, Larry. Larry's unwavering philosophy is that people are the catalyst for transformative change. He believes firmly in their ability to shape their destiny and create the lives they truly deserve. He is a seasoned expert in career advancement and a dynamic speaker with a genuine passion for unlocking individuals' full potential, with over 5 decades of diverse work experience ranging from hourly labor to CEO, a master's degree in organizational development, a TEDx speaker, and a best-selling author. I look forward to you, Larry, talking to us about unlocking career advancement secrets. Be replaceable and indispensable. Thank you so much for being here.
Back in the 1970s, early 1970s, I was a private.
Well, Larry, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 sec because I think you're way too far away from the computer and we can't hear you.
How's it? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you much better. Thank you.
Yeah, my lavalier apparently is not working. Figures, right? Anyhow,
go ahead.
let's start over. I'm going to start off with a story. Back in the early 1970s, I was a private in the United States Army Reserve, and I had a burning desire to get promoted. So I made sure that my attendance was perfect, my uniform was meticulously pressed, and my spit-shine boots could double as mirrors. So imagine my dismay when I was passed over for promotion, not once, not twice, but 3 times. The company commander said, "Well, you don't have any interaction with human resources. They don't know you. You're just one more candidate lost in the crowd." Oh, I heard him loud and clear. And that very afternoon, I volunteered to come in 1 night a month and help HR catch up on their paperwork and their filing. And son of a gun, it wasn't long before I got promoted. That drive for career advancement followed me into corporate life. And as I climbed the corporate ladder from an hourly worker to CEO, I began to realize that there are fewer opportunities for advancement, but much more intensive competition. That was what inspired me to come up with a new approach for career advancement. It's not hard. It's 2 categories. The first one is making sure that you are aligned with opportunities. And the second one is strategically positioning yourself. Let's talk about the first one. So when you're in a position and you start to look around, you notice that, hey, I don't see any opportunities for advancement, or I see too few opportunities for advancement, or maybe I'm not qualified to get advanced. So that's a decision point. We either have to take action or allow our careers to stagnate by doing nothing. At one time, I worked for a small company, and I found out that there were no promotional opportunities. So I dusted off my resume and I took a job with General Motors. It was a factory that manufactured hardware parts for the automobiles. I ended up with higher pay, better benefits, and more opportunities for promotion. But a couple of years in, after I started to get some experience in how to make metal parts, I began to realize that in my department, where all of my experience was, there were only 12 opportunities for potential advancement. So I went to my boss and suggested that we create a position for a vacation replacement supervisor. He liked the idea. I got the position. It was not a promotion, but it was a new position. And it gave me the opportunity to replace supervisors on vacation in all the various departments throughout the plant. Not only manufacturing, but quality, HR, safety, shipping and receiving. I met all of the managers and all of the higher ups in the company. What happened was I went from having 12 potential opportunities to over 100 potential opportunities. But then after a couple of years, they came back and said, well, you know what? You can't get promoted because you only have an associate's degree. And at General Motors, you need at least a bachelor's degree to get promoted higher than the position of supervisor. Now, what interesting factoid, that policy stayed in place until 2023. But my answer was, I went and got a degree. And 2 months later, I was promoted to the position of manager of training development for the quality department at the headquarters of Chevrolet, Pontiac, and GM of Canada in Detroit, Michigan. So it comes down to, if there are no opportunities, if there are only a few opportunities, or if you're not qualified, you're not going to get promoted. You have to align yourself with the opportunities in order to make that happen. The next portion is strategic positioning. You know, conventional wisdom tells us that if we want to get promoted, we should promote our achievements, our personal achievements, to let people know what we're doing and market ourselves to the decision makers. The problem is, if we do that, we risk doing the same thing everyone else is doing and becoming just one more candidate lost in the crowd. That's not a good place to be. You want to be recognized. My program, pushes the fact that you need to be replaceable and at the same time indispensable. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but here's how it works. Picture yourself. You've been in a job, you're doing a great job, you're highly qualified, everybody likes you, and a position opens up higher than you. It's one you can apply for. You do apply. You know that you're qualified. The decision makers, the people interviewing you, say you are head and shoulders above all of the other candidates. But then they get together and they say, you know what? We don't have anybody to take their place. That means if we hire somebody from the outside, she's going to have to train them before she can move up. And once she moves up, she's going to have to be trained. This is too much for the company to bear. These are two crucial positions. So they sit down with you and they say, I'm sorry, but for the good of the company, you're going to have to stay where you're at because you're in a crucial position and we don't have a replacement for you. And they walk away and you sit there thinking, I should have had a succession plan in place. How do you create a succession plan? Start by looking at the people who work for you. Identify those who have the potential, the drive, and the commitment to take your place. If you can't find that person working for you, look in other departments. Maybe you can lure somebody into your area. If you can't do that, maybe you have to go outside to get somebody that has that drive, that has that potential. Once you have them, you train them, you guide them, you counsel them, you mentor them so that they are as good as you, if not better. By doing that, you've improved the capabilities of your own department. You fed the pipeline for talent for the company, and you're seen as somebody who is looking out for the ongoing future of the company. And you are replaceable. There is someone there to take your place when you move up without delay. While you're doing that, you need to position yourself as being indispensable. That means you want the decision makers to see you as an asset that is so valuable to the ongoing success of the organization that they can't let you go. How do you do that? The key is maximizing results. Maximize your performance. We have metrics for everything in sports, celebrities, politicians, and managers. We have metrics that measure how well we are doing. And the key to improving the performance is to create a culture that fosters a high degree of employee engagement. Now, there's a fact that you may not be aware of is that 85% of American workers are disengaged. That means they work just hard enough to get their paycheck. They're not going to go the extra mile for you. But what's more disturbing is that 16% are actively disengaged. That means they're not happy. They're going to be very vocal about being not happy. They want others to be unhappy, because misery loves company. When I moved from that small company I told you about earlier, that was a small electronics company, had about 100 people. I knew all of them. It was clean. It was sparkling clean. You could probably eat off the floors. It was so quiet, because we're working with microelectronics, that if you dropped a pin, everybody would turn around and look and see what the noise was. I went to General Motors, a hardware stamping plant. I walked in, they handed me personal protection equipment, toe protection, hand protection, eye protection, hearing protection. It was so loud. Picture 500-ton presses stamping 1/4-inch and 1/8-inch material. Fork trucks backing up all over the place, and 3,500 people. I got to tell you, I was terrified. It was not an easy transition. And by the end of the second day, I was really questioning my ability to make a good career development decision. I was scared. The next day, however, I called all my people together. I needed to talk to them. But I looked out and I saw a couple of things. One, the youngest was probably 15 years older than me. Two, most of them had gray hair if they had any. And three, I was doing when they had all of my digits. Many of them have lost fingers at work doing their jobs, and they did not look happy. I didn't know what to say, so I started off with, hey, I know that you think I'm just some other shake and bake college boy here to tell you how to do your job. And you're partially right. I do have 2 years of college. But I want to know what I have to do to help you do your job better, safer, and more efficiently. Well, they relaxed a little bit, but I said, okay, so tell me, what do you need? Nobody said a word. Dead silence. So I dismissed them and I walked back to my desk, and there were two guys standing there. One was the senior press operator, been in that department for 28 years, and the other one was the job setter. He was the one that people called whenever they had a problem making a part. And I said, what can I do for you? And they said, we're here to see if you're serious. So they started making a list of all the things that were wrong. It was a mess. And I said, okay, well, we're going to work on these and we're going to try to fix them one at a time. And it was a couple of weeks later, we were making progress, but others in the department started coming to me as well. Things started to change. And then my first review came up. And my boss said, we're pretty impressed. All metrics for your department have improved tremendously. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. I felt pretty good. But then he finished. But I've become aware that you have 0 grievances from the union. That tells me you're not managing your people properly. And I better see an improvement. Well, just as a side note, 2 years later, I was one of 6 people in the entire plant picked for special training and organization development, headed up by Dr. Jervis Bush, who is a professor of leadership and organization development at Simon Fraser. He introduced us to a model that he developed for creating high potential work groups. Because our goal was to create high potential work groups to improve productivity, quality, and this one I like, improve the relationships between union and management. And I really like this model because it really resonated with what I've been doing most of my adult working life, trying to build teams. His model talked about two different categories, task elements. These are the elements that you have to satisfy for the employee in order for them to have a chance of doing their job. The one that I see most often missing is they really don't know what their job is. I have to make these points, or how it contributes to the success of the organization. They can't always get the resources they need. They're not allowed to make basic decisions. The more we satisfy these elements, the higher the potential for success can be. But there's another whole side to the equation, and that is the environmental factors. What is the culture? I've been in places where they were, you talk about giving somebody a reward for doing something, and the answer is, well, you know what? They get a paycheck. That's their reward. I've been in places where you work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end. So the culture has to be supportive. They have to be able to give the resources that they need. And that's another big one. Oftentimes they talk about, they want to have teams. They want to have high potential teams. You say, how much time are you willing to let them meet? Well, we're not letting them meet. They're having to work. They're not paid to meet. They're paid to make product. Growth potential is also necessary. I added that one to Jervis's model, and employee well-being I also added. That's more commonly known as work-life balance today, and it's a big topic coming on. Jervis presented this in a model where the y-axis is your task elements and your x-axis are your environmental factors. And the way it works, let's assume that your task elements are very low. They're just non-existent. Same with the environment. You're not getting what you need. The people are not getting what they need. The potential for that group is almost non-existent. In fact, Jervis labeled it as being dead. Okay. Let's assume that the task elements remain low, but the environment was pushing. They wanted it. They were trying to be supportive. They're saying, come on, give us what we need. It's important. You have to help us get this. What do you need? And you're not going to respond. That group will oftentimes get very frustrated. The other one is when the environmental factors are low, but the task elements are very high. That group of people often feels like they have to fight the environment to get everything they need to succeed. You'll see this in political rallies and protests where the people protesting really believe in what they want and what they need and what we should do, but they feel they have to fight the environment. Jervis called that a militant group. It was only when the task elements and the environmental factors were both high that you have a group that has a high potential for success. I was doing this, I just wasn't aware of it. And I've used it. Matter of fact, it was the foundation for my master's degree, the task environment model. So I've used it for over 50 years. I love it. You will too once you start using it. The other part is that Gallup has done studies that shows there's a very strong relationship between the potential of the team to succeed and employee engagement. And that engaged teams and people often outperform others in terms of productivity, turnover, and profitability. So if you want to maximize your results, Maximize the potential for success of the people who work for you. I've broken this into the 3 categories, but you'll notice I've added one called motivational needs. Why did I add that? Well, sometimes, with all good intentions, there are some missing elements under task and some missing factors under environment. But if the people are motivated, a lot of times they'll come forward and find a way to get the job done. I had a situation with a brand new customer, first order, and it was going to be a big customer. And at the last minute, our supplier notified us that they were going to be at least a week late delivering. We did not want to go back to the customer and say, we can't deliver. But one of my factory managers stepped up and said, I've already checked inventory. If I can make some shift changes, we can make the parts during the day, assemble them at night, and ship in the morning. And that's what he did. He worked all day. He also worked second shift to make sure that it got done. He did that for 5 consecutive days until the supplier caught up. He was motivated to get it done, even though he didn't have all the resources he needed. I also feel with motivation, a lot of us talk about extrinsic and intrinsic, but I'd like to add fulfillment. Extrinsic, is when you do something to reward somebody to do something or to encourage them not to do it. A reward or punishment. From a motivational impact, it's kind of moderate to low. From an employee engagement impact, it's moderate, but they tend to wear off over time. Intrinsic, on the other hand, people do something because they want to do it. I've had engineers where I walked in and I said, "You're working a little late tonight, aren't you?" They look at their watch and they say, "Oh, I didn't realize it was that late." Some of the experts call it you're trapped in the flow. But the motivational impact is high, and so is the employee engagement impact. It lasts a long time. But then fulfillment is doing something because it contributes to your personal growth and gives you an opportunity to contribute to something that you believe in. And I can't give you an example of this for other people because I can't tell you how they feel. But from a personal standpoint, when I was COO, there were times when I was offered jobs without interviews. People offered, customers, suppliers, competitors would call and offer me a job with better pay and better benefits. But I liked what I was doing. I was invested in it. I believed in it. And I felt like I was contributing. I never even went to the interviews. So it's not like one of these each. It's a blend of environment, task, and motivation that once you get them moving correctly together, success follows. There was a time when there was a staff meeting. It was on a Monday morning, and the CEO announced that I was taking responsibility for 3 of the manufacturing plants in North America. As we were walking out of the room, one of the other executives grabbed me by the elbow and held me back a little bit. And he says, I've worked with all of your plant managers. They're no good. They have no clue what they're doing. They're not motivated. They're not going to get you the results you need. If I were you, I would stop at HR right now and initiate a search for higher talent. Well, on Friday, I got a call from the owner of the company. He was very irate because we had a customer, our largest customer, had a quality problem, and it was a repeat problem. We had the same problem a couple of months prior. He got involved with the people in the plant. They solved the dimensional problem that they got from their supplier, and he told them to implement 100% inspection. He went and visited with the customer, said, we fixed it. And we're going to inspect the parts 100% before we ship them to you, so you'll never have a problem. Well, they had the problem again. He got called. The customer was angry. He was angry. I said, I'll take care of it. He said, no, you won't. You're new in this position. I'm flying there on Monday morning. I'm firing the plant manager. I protested. I was overruled. But Sunday afternoon, I found myself standing in front of that factory. And, from a curb appeal standpoint, it left something to be desired. The grass hadn't been cut. There was litter all over the place. Later that night, I called the owner And I said, there's no sense in you coming here. I'm already here. I'll handle it. And he thanked me because his calendar was full. He was booked. But let me know how it works out tomorrow. Let me know how he handled getting fired. I said, I sure will. So next day I walked in and I approached the door, and there's a piece of printer paper taped to the door with the company name handwritten on it. Not a good first impression. That was the only signage they had. I opened the door, and the entrance mat was stained and had a big tear in it. Well, the other thing was there was a 8-point white-tailed deer that had been hanging on the wall, trophy, and it apparently had fallen to the floor and had been there for a while because there were spider webs from the antlers to the wall. The plant manager came around the corner, and you could see he was terrified. We talked for a little bit. We brought his staff in. We talked about my new role. We talked about the problems that they were having. Then we went on a tour. Equally depressing. Didn't even have to look for problems. They just jumped out at you all over the place. So we talked about it. We walked around, and I'm trying to think, what am I going to do? We went to lunch. After they ordered from the menu, they all just sat there staring at the tabletop until the plant manager spoke up and said, "You gonna fire me?" Now my reply shocked them and me, because I said, "Fire you? Hell no, I'm not going to fire you. I want to know what it's going to take to make you guys successful." That opened the floodgates, and they started telling me all the problems that they encountered. A large majority of them came from restrictions that were passed down from corporate office. So I said, you know what, we're going to work on these today, and every day this week while I'm here, we're going to continue working on it, and we're going to touch base every month to see what you need, and we're going to fix it. Well, that night I called the owner of the company, and he said, "How'd it go?" And I didn't fire him. I said, in fact, we're going to fix some of the problems that they have. For example, the reason the parts did not get inspected, when you told the plant manager you wanted them inspected, he notified, for a procedure, human resources that he needed 5 people to do the inspection. Human resources looked at it. They had a key performance indicator looking at labor costs versus revenue. Their KPI would drop. So the request was denied. The plant manager knew what the promise was. He went over and checked a couple of pieces himself. He didn't find any bad. And he made a decision to ship the parts. His rationale was, I think these are good, but if they're not, I might get in trouble. But if I shut the production line down because they don't have parts, I will definitely get fired. So it wasn't his fault. But we were holding him accountable for it. There were several other issues that they brought up. Well, what really grabbed me was when one of the managers there said, it feels like we're a small island out in the middle of the ocean someplace, just isolated from everybody, thousands of miles from the corporate office. But the only time we hear from corporate office is when they're going to blame us for something that went wrong. So I told them, we're not going to fire anybody. We're going to find a way to fix these problems so that they can be successful. And luckily, it worked there. We saw tremendous improvements in turnover, absenteeism, production efficiency, and quality. Not only there, but the other 2 factories as well. So the task environment model is critical to help building employee engagement. While you're doing this, the whole time you're doing it, it's important to be visible. And I am not a proponent of professing your personal achievements or marketing yourself to the decision makers, because then you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing and you're one of the crowd. Look for opportunities to showcase the achievements of your people in casual conversations, formal presentations, and written reports. I started doing this, and it would be amazing how many times the person I was talking about, their accolades, they would call me and say, "Hey, I heard you talking about that. You talked about this. Thank you. I appreciate that." I also got calls from other managers complimenting me on what my people had done. And the owner saying, I love the way your people react to problems. So when you do this, you will earn the respect of your people. But it's also important to showcase those who supported them. Almost every department relies on another department for something. It might be maintenance, it might be IT support or quality support or human resources. If they help your people, give them credit, give credit where credit is due. You'll find that the service you get from them will be better and faster. And there are times where two groups might be fighting for the same scarce resources. You might get the edge. But by doing it, you will earn the respect, the trust, and the loyalty of your people. And I lost my place, but you will earn the respect, trust, and loyalty. And you will be seen by the decision makers as being a powerful and influential leader, an asset vital to the ongoing success of the organization. And you will be indispensable. So if you position yourself well in alignment with opportunities, and you put yourself in a position where you are seen as an influential leader and an asset to the company, your chances for promotion will escalate because you will stand apart from the crowd. You will not be lost in the crowd, and you'll be standing apart from them for all the right reasons. And for that, I'd like to thank all of you and apologize for my little stumble there. But if you have any questions outside of here, or you just want to talk, I put my email address up here. Just send me an email and we'll set up a time we can talk. Randy,
Fantastic. Fantastic, Larry. That was a lot of detail and a lot of insight for us on this topic. And I think really important for corporations, for people working in the corporate world to set themselves up for success.
They're saying you're setting yourself up for success, but also your people, and it works well with groups, organizations, and individuals.
Perfect. So how can they, you prefer them to get a hold of you by email?
Yeah, I think if they get hold of me by email, I'll send them my calendar link and we can set up a time where they can talk.
Okay, and do you have a website as well with any information?
I do, but it's under construction and it is www.myobpublishing.com.
Okay, so in the future, you will be able to tap into the website, but definitely connect with Larry directly. And I know that you'll be a huge support for them, Larry. I know you're really passionate about this topic and you love to help people as well. So thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
And Randy, thank you very much for this opportunity and for